Good evening, folks, and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well this evening. Let's see who we have on tonight. We have Stu, Viking President. Stu, great to see you on the stream. Hope you're well. We also have Killer. Thank you for moderating once again, Killer. Thanks so much for coming on. Aki's Mad is here. Great to see you. CGM, thank you for moderating too. Hope you're well. We also have Mad Monk. Great to see you. Who else have we got? Stefan, great to see you. Regan Elite, great to have you on tonight. Make sure to check out Regan Elite's YouTube channel. Hop on over there. We also have Jim, great to see you, Jim. Mark is here. John O'Sullivan, great to see you once again. Frederick, great to have you on. Michael Smith, great to see you. We also have Maria Sockjuice, great to see you. Chatty Ratty is here. Hope you're well. 91 Leeds, great to see you on once again. We have DW, great to have you on tonight. Wolf Pet is here. We have Shell, good to see you once again. We have also Jim Bone, great to see you. No relation to Peter, I hope. Artie Bus is on, great to see you, Artie Bus. Steve is here. Bill Silver, great to have you on once again. Mandy, great to see you. Hope you're well tonight. Great to see you on the stream tonight, Mandy. Richard is here. We also have Michael Smith. Great to see you. MUFC Charlie. Great to see you. 25 new ships. Do you not believe Grant Shapps? Do you think that Grant Shapps is being dishonest here? Or maybe not Grant Shapps. Maybe it's Michael Green. Is it Michael Green? The man in the hat is back. Thanks for that. We have Jason, great to see you. Gareth McDonald, great to see you on the stream tonight, Gareth. Hope you're well. Paul, great to see you. Paul H. We also have hope I'm not missing anyone. Tom, great to see you. Jason is here. And so many more. Hope you're all very well. Hope you had a nice weekend and you're ready for some more craziness this week. And it seems, for poor Rishi Sunak, as soon as there's a bit of good news, like the economy is improving very slightly, if you ignore what happened before, and it's a bit like when they, when they're selling the idea of the economy, it's a bit like how they sell inflation. When inflation drops, they say, see, everything is doing, prices have dropped. Obviously, if inflation drops, prices don't drop. You have more money in your pocket. And then when it comes to growth, they're like, yeah, see, the economy is growing. But if last month it dropped by 5%, well, not 5%, but if it dropped by like 2% or even 1%, and then it recovers by 0.8%, well, it hasn't cancelled out the previous drop, because you're starting from a lower point. So it's not like it even cancels each other out. It's an increase based on the drop from before. Anyway, it's a bit more complicated than Labour Social. Great to see Labour Social. People from Labour Social coming on. After the live stream, it'll go to Labour Social, back to them. Are these ships made from Airfix? Remember Boris Johnson? Boris Johnson used to make buses. Maybe they could get Boris Johnson to make a few ships. Anyway, guys, so we're talking about a few things tonight. Job centres, unemployment. Unemployment is up. So remember, Rishi Sunak was doing well with the economy improving slightly. Well, also unemployment is up. And that's really bad because recently unemployment was down. There was overemployment. Now that, businesses are not able to expand because they can't find workers. So they're not hiring more. There's probably a freeze on recruitment. And of course, well, you need workers, and maybe they're laying some off because they can't expand, in part because of Brexit. So people are being laid off and unemployment is rising. So you have massive numbers of vacancies, but also growing unemployment, which is a recipe for disaster. I'll talk about a bit about immigration as well, maternity. So there was a disaster happening in the NHS regarding that, and I just want to touch on Georgia before we finish the live stream tonight. So remember, guys, to smash the like button if you can. You can hit me with a super chat and I'll read it out, and let's jump into this. So I want to start off with this first story here. Oh my goodness, Esther McVey, who is and this is serious, the Minister for Common Sense. So some of you have probably already seen this clip where she was asked a question by LBC. Let me boost the audio a little bit because it's a little bit low in this clip. Let's hear what she had to say.
The gentleman from LBC in that.
Thank you very much. You spoke about lanyards as being one sort of example within the civil service, but I wonder how far are you willing to take that? I mean, if I turn up with a sort of LGBT coloured lanyard or a Palestinian flag, I mean, could I face the sack if I refuse to work for the civil service without wearing that lanyard? And just on Reform UK...
Can I just ask you a question? Yeah. Why would you wear that lanyard?
Well, no, I'm not saying I would.
But why would you? Why would you feel...
He said not him. He's asking a hypothetical question, and she doesn't understand hypothetical questions. Okay.
Civil service without wearing that lanyard. And just on Reform UK...
Can I just ask you a question? Yeah. Why would you wear that lanyard?
Well, no, I'm not saying I would.
But why would you? Why would you feel...
I don't know. I don't. But clearly people do in the civil service, hence why you've got the idea.
So you wouldn't know why you would?
Well, no.
So you wouldn't know why you would. He's asking a hypothetical question. You don't understand. Esther McVeigh doesn't understand what hypothetical is. Oh my goodness. Yoni, thank you so much for that super chat. 25 new warships built since 2 decades ago. Yes. It's exactly like well said, Yoni. It's a bit like the hospitals. Remember the 40 new hospitals that Boris Johnson promised to build. Then it turned out to be, well, they're not really 40 and we're not really building new ones. We're like, giving them a bit of paint, changing a door here and there, maybe expanding the car park. That's a new hospital. So it's a different hospital. There's if you paint the outside a different color, it's a new hospital, even though it's crumbling down. How do these people get elected? Who votes for these people? How can someone look at this and go, yeah, I'm happy that Esther McVeigh is my MP? She doesn't understand what hypotheticals are.
Doing the civil service, hence why you've got the idea.
So you wouldn't know why you would?
Well, no, but you said it's a problem.
To go back, I mean, Conservative MPs and go around with Ukrainian flags and Israeli flags on their lapels. You
might say they're political. Yeah. The civil service is not political. So do you want me to answer your question about lanyards? This, and what we're going to do straight away, is we belong to the family that is the government family, and this is the department we're in, and we are proud to be in there, and what we're doing is working for the public from there. Therefore, what we don't need, and what I was saying, is you don't need political activism in a visible way. Because
it's not activism. There was... Times Radio did a very interesting interview with, I think, a member of the civil service from Scotland. And she said, she's gay, and she said, look, I wear this to show people that I'm gay, okay, but also it's a welcoming, it's a way to welcome people who are gay coming into the office, so that they know, okay, this person is welcoming, this person is going to respect me. It's not activism, it's a way of welcoming people. Like if somebody were to wear a cross, a crucifix around their neck, would you be saying, well, no, they should get rid of that? But that's part of their identity. But it shows, this is what I believe. I'm a Christian, I wear a cross. So if there are other Christians who come in, who may, I don't know, for whatever reason, want to speak to another Christian, in a church or something like that, or in some sort of... I don't know, a homeless shelter or something like that, where somebody may feel more comfortable speaking to a Christian than an atheist or a Muslim or whatever. It's just something that you can show to people that this is who I am and this is what I represent. But it's not activism.
Because for every lanyard that you show, you're therefore not...
So what's a lanyard? Okay.
Activism in a visible way. Because for every lanyard that you show, you're therefore not saying about all the other things you do or don't agree with. So you're promoting one at the exclusion of other things.
What a piece of crap this is. Oh, if you're wearing the rainbow one, well, then you're not wearing a Palestinian one. If you're wearing a Palestinian one, then you're not wearing a rainbow one, or you're not wearing a Ukrainian one, or you're not wearing a, I don't know, whatever. This is the sort of rhetoric, this is the sort of response the right wing have. Oh, you're campaigning for people in Palestine. Well, why aren't you campaigning for people in in Ukraine, or you're campaigning for people in Ukraine. Why aren't you caring about Palestine? Or why aren't you caring about people in China or people in Africa or whatever? This is not because they actually care about these things. It's like trying to divide people. It's trying to say, oh, you only care about this group. You don't. Well, who do you care about, Esther McVeigh, apart from yourself?
Making, and hence I asked the question, why would you be wearing it? It is making a statement. You're putting it on to make a statement. And what we're saying is actually your political beliefs remain at the front door, and when you come in, you're part of a happy team. And it's not to impose your views on anybody else. It's not to be a distraction.
You are imposing your views on people. As a politician, you're imposing your views on people. You're saying you should do this and you should not do that. It's so ironic that you have these people who claim to be libertarians saying we need to get the government out of people's business. And now she's telling people what they can and can't wear, or what they should and shouldn't wear.
Is not to be about political activism. And that's why I said a very simple way to show there is harmony, unity and inclusivity within an organisation. So it's just a simple, visible difference.
There will be a consequence, if people don't comply.
And then that would be for the permanent secretary to do. She believes.
So I don't want to take the responsibility of saying that people should be fired. That would be the job of the permanent secretary. So I would instruct the permanent secretary, of course, to fire these people, but not take the blame for it. So it'd be, well, it's not my fault that they get fired. It's the permanent secretary's responsibility. You know, the NHS is crumbling, and Esther McVeigh is concerned about ribbons. This is how bad the situation has become. You know, oh my God. Once again, she's the Minister for Common Sense. Gareth, thank you so much for that super chat. If this kind of shit was being peddled by Afghan, China or Iran, being told what you can and cannot do, we'd be up in arms, and rightly so. Yes. If it was happening anywhere else, they'd be like, this is unbelievable. Unfortunately, this is the sort of politics I see a lot in Italy. Right-wing politicians complaining about flags, complaining about paraphernalia, complaining about any sort of inclusion. And I don't know if it's something that's been imported from the US, from Republicans and the far right in the US, but it seems to be spreading a lot, unfortunately. Thanks so much, Gareth. Yoni, once again, thank you so much, Yoni. That's a pan-galactic gargle blaster without the benefit of the gold brick. Oh my goodness.
People will comply, and of course we will have provided the new lanyards so people can wear them. But as I said, people need to think to themselves why they would be doing that rather than promoting where they're working.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, let's move on. A shit show. Tory MPs despair over Sunak's top team in leaked messages. So once again, the WhatsApp groups that include many crazies within the Conservative Party are leaking some of those WhatsApp to the media. The frustration and despair of Tory MPs felt towards Rishi Sunak's top team is revealed in leaked WhatsApp messages obtained by Sky News. Isn't it interesting? Who is leaking this information? Because it's not Sky News hacking. It's not like, Piers Morgan or something. It's it's somebody within the group is leaking this information to the media in order to undermine people within the group, or to try and push some sort of message. I don't know. One MP called the parliamentary operation a shit show and crazy. It could sum up a lot of things within the Conservative Party. While another said they were at a loss at the handling of the crunch Monday night vote on excluding MPs arrested on suspicion of serious sexual and violent offences. And look, kudos to Jess Phillips for talking about this, very brave, and calling out MPs who have committed rape in members of Parliament who have committed rape. And she had pointed out perfectly as well how, you can't just call the police and the police will come and arrest these people. No, that's not how it works. So she used her privilege in Parliament to call this out. And fortunately, the vote passed. But it seems that people within the Conservative Party are so upset that, people who've been accused of who have been arrested on serious suspicion of serious sexual and violent offences. They're concerned about those people, not actually the victims. The echo comments Tory MPs made privately to Sky News. There was fury among Tory MPs after most found themselves on the losing side of a vote, a Lib Dem and Labour motion to exclude any MPs arrested for a serious offence from the parliamentary estate, which would bring Westminster into line with other workplaces. You have the Tories saying we people need to get back into the office. People need to, to work hard. They need to keep their noses clean. But when it comes to Parliament, no, we're different. The bulk of Tory, you would imagine these things are normal. Brad, thank you so much for that super chat. A shit show is offensive to shit. It is. It sure is. Look, we're seeing the end of this political party. This has to be the end of the Conservatives after this. How can they show their faces in public after this 14 years of absolute disaster? The bulk of the Tory MPs backed a different plan to exclude MPs at the point of a charge, arguing that MPs could easily become the target of vexatious complaints. It was a free vote, which meant MPs did not have to vote on party lines, which was interesting, because if the party had been whipped to vote a particular way, this would have been bad for the party. We're going to whip the MPs to vote a particular way, but it seems that many MPs are just scumbags because they voted against this. Most of them Tory MPs, and most of them to the right of the Conservative Party as well. There's another story here I want to cover. Thanks, Brad. We have another super chat from Gareth. Thank you so much, Gareth. Why would they be wearing a rainbow lanyard? Because I bloody well want to. I know Conservatives are obsessed with bullshit conspiracies, but fuck me. Yes. Why would somebody have a problem with that? And as I said before, if you go into a place, if you're just coming out, for example, and you go into a public office and there's somebody there wearing one, then you feel more comfortable, talking about yourself, explaining your situation, because you'll feel there's somebody there who's open-minded, somebody, who's on the same wavelength. You may not know that, and this is a way of showing people, look, it's okay if you want to talk to me about this. I can't find the video now, but it was on Times Radio. It was a very interesting interview. Freckle Punny, thank you so much for that super chat. Rishit Snowneck. Oh my goodness. Jeremy Hunt has hinted at a general election in October. I still think it's going to be, I think if Rishi Sunak gets his way, it'll be January. But it could happen in October, yes. I think the Tories want to go as soon as possible because, if you have a slim majority, there's a risk that majority will disappear over the next number of months. So it'd be better for you to go now, so you increases your chances of holding on to your seat. Because nothing is going to improve. It's highly unlikely something will improve. But I keep saying this: the Tory MPs want an election early because there's a higher risk that a higher chance that they'll hold on to their seat. There's also another cohort who have a massive majority who don't give a crap because they know that they're going to hold on to the seat, like Mark Francois or Suella Braverman or Liz Truss. So they don't care because they're not going to lose, no matter what they do. And then, of course, then you have Rishi Sunak. And Rishi Sunak, I think, wants to go as late as possible, January next year, because that increases his chance of making more money. It's about, enriching his family, his friends, and himself. So why leave now? There's lots more money to be made. Anyway, guys, I want to go to another story here. Explained, what is Labour's New Deal for working people? So, the Tories are on the way out. Labour is coming in. What is Labour's plan? This is according to Sky News. So, as we reported in our previous post, the Labour leadership has held meetings with trade unions today. about the party's proposal to expand workers' rights. A joint statement said it was a constructive discussion that reiterated full commitment to the so-called New Deal for working people. So what is this workers' rights plan? The New Deal for working people was launched by the Deputy Leader Angela Rayner at the party conference in 2021. The key planks are a ban on zero-hour contracts, which is a great idea because so many people are, in a desperate situation because of zero-hour contracts. So anyone who doesn't know, a zero-hour contract is where you can be, you have a very flimsy type of contract where the employer will call you up and say, hey, yeah, can you come in this evening? We need you to pack shelves, or we need you to do takeaways or something like that. Come in, and then you could be, leave your home, get on the bus on your way there, and then they call you and say, actually, no, we don't need you after all. And then you don't get paid. And then you have to head back home again. So this is one of the terrible parts of the Cruella coward man. This is one of the terrible things about zero-hour contracts. Ending fire and rehire, stopping employers sacking staff and rehiring them on worse pay and conditions, a bit like what happened with P&O ferries. But this is a general. This was big during the pandemic, where particularly the airlines laid off a lot of staff and then rehired them with a new contract, but of course with lower pay and worse conditions. So this is, I don't know if it's still taking place to the same extent during the pandemic, but it's certainly something that needs to be scrapped. Bringing in employee rights such as sick pay, paternal leave, and protection against unfair dismissal from day one. Well, I thought that would already be in place. Rolling back Tory legislation restricting industrial action. Yeah, so this is something that I think the trade unions are very much on board with. The Tories, of course, trying to make it more and more difficult for unions to be able to ballot to try and organize a strike, and then of course they were banging on constantly about the minimum service levels, which of course they're not actually interested in providing a minimum service level. It's just about punishing the trade unions and striking workers. Making flexible working a right, and this is very important. Hi Max, David McGuinness, thank you so much. David, great to see you on the stream, and thank you for that super chat. And make sure to check out Indie Struck Davies' YouTube channel, the two Davies. I hope other Davy is doing well at the moment. Hi Max, Indie Struck Davy on Monday. I stopped being an activist now, and I'm an extremist. She gave me a promotion. I didn't see that. I heard that. So if you're interested in Scottish independence or something else, I don't remember what the other one was. Yes, you're now an extremist. So you're no longer an activist, an extremist. Are you going to have to wear a balaclava? Thanks so much, David. And congratulations on your promotion. Oh my goodness, it's just insane. It's about scaremongering. It's about I keep saying this, the Tories can't come up with something that actually helps people. So it's all about banning stuff or making people's lives more miserable or creating wedge issues, lighting the fire under the culture war, stuff like this. Not actually, I keep saying UBI. Remember UBI? If they were to introduce a UBI, that could help. That would massively help so many people, and it would, I think, help the Conservatives at the general election, because people would come out and say, "Wow, yeah, actually vote for." Because if you think about it, the furlough scheme was really popular. Now, a lot of people were not covered by it. That's a separate story. But it was really successful, really popular, and Rishi Sunak got a massive amount of credit for it, even though he was against it before. A bit like the DUP and the Good Friday Agreement. He was against it before he was for it. And of course, he realized, people liked it, and I was forced to introduce it. Now I say it's mine. I did it on my own, my own back. But if he was to introduce a UBI, which is similar to the furlough scheme, it'd be hugely successful, lift so many people out of poverty. But then Rishi Sunak was against furlough, so he'd be against a UBI. because it helps ordinary people. It doesn't help him. It doesn't help the richest in society. Bowler Hatman, great to see you on the stream tonight. Make sure to check out Bowler Hatman's YouTube channel if you haven't already. A furlough scheme was UBI in all but name. Yes. The idea, you just give people money to help them pay their bills, to pay their rent, to get by, to feed their families. And, so many people had to stay at home. They couldn't work. They couldn't even work from home in some cases. So, it was a great idea. And, I don't know if any of you had seen the OpenAI live stream podcast presentation yesterday. It was mind-blowing. So there's a new AI tool that I think is going to eliminate a lot of work, especially people in call centers. It was able to, it was able to deal with a call center issue to the same level or even better than a human. And it was very friendly. And you could have like one tool dealing with hundreds of thousands of calls. So the way that when you call a call center and you have a problem, you have to wait. Well, this would eliminate waiting times. There'd be no waiting time. You go directly to the AI and it would solve your problem. Class action, thank you so much for that super chat. Sunak is fart in a trance. Or in a spacesuit. Thanks for that. That was funny. Anyway, so let's hope that, because we've heard a lot about how some aspects of the workers, the New Deal for working people has been watered down. I think the Labour Party need to get their messaging clear. Because we're hearing so many things about, well, this has been watered down, this hasn't. Then Keir Starmer comes out and says, no, nothing has changed. So I think the messaging needs to be cleared up because we're hearing so many things that are contradicting each other. At the Trade Union Congress last year, Ms. Rayner reiterated Labour's commitment to the plan and to introducing it within 100 days of a Labour government forming. Speaking to Sky News in February, she doubled down on the plan, saying this is good for business and it's good for workers. But as Labour gets closer to power, it had been reported that pressure from business, whom Sir Keir Starmer has been courting, could see some of these pledges watered down. Unite boss Sharon Graham said the policy is non-negotiable, saying if Labour do not explicitly recommit to what is already pledged, namely the New Deal for workers, will be delivering in the first 100 days of office, then a red line will be crossed. So let's hope that they don't cross that red line. Let's hope that they don't renege on the New Deal for workers. This is so important because over the last 14 years, how the Tories have been running trade unions into the ground, picking fights with them, picking fights not even to save money, and it's not about saving money. They're picking fights for ideological reasons. How much we love to see Mick Lynch. We hope that we don't have to see Mick Lynch protesting or picketing or anything in the future, because we hope that Labour will actually negotiate properly with the trade unions to make sure that they have what they need, so that people don't have to go on strike. We shouldn't see any more strikes. So how much we love Mick Lynch, let's hope we don't see him after Labour get into power. And I mean that in a positive way, of course. Guys, we're almost at the middle of the stream, so I just want to take a short comedy moment and we'll be back in just a jiffy with more serious stuff. Hope you enjoy this.
At some point this year, we will have to go to the polls and make a decision between the past and the future. Now, the past is full of stuff and the future is empty. Therefore, it has no data. And no data is what I've based this speech on. We have been in power for 14 years, but I don't think you can blame us for anything bad that's happened in that time, because we are talking about the future, which fundamentally is not the past. The only time we really want you to think about the past is when people on Twitter post those weird AI-generated images of an imagined England full of Morris dancers and poorly generated fingers with the caption caption, "I want my country back." Well, do you know what? So do we. So do we. When did we used to have our country? The past. When do we want it back? The future. And do not see the past 14 years through the prism of Liz Truss. Try using some rose-tinted spectacles, or do what I do and close your eyes and imagine. In the past, Natalie Elphicke was good. In the future, she is bad. Coincidence? No idea. The past is where we made the Rwanda bill, which will change things in the future. If we send no one to Rwanda, it will have cost us only £370 million. But good news, if we do send people, it could end up costing up to £500 million, which is undeniably cheaper than HS2. Human rights, I hope, someday in the future will become a thing of the past. We have spent a considerable amount of time in the past undermining the power of the domestic court to challenge deportations, meaning people in the future will have little choice but to go to the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg, which is, like our Supreme Court here, very foreign. In the past, we were in the ECHR, but in the future, we could leave it and be heroes just like Russia. We are here for Britain. We have been here for Britain, and we will be here for Britain. Together, let's make the past the future. And once we are there in the future, that future will have become the past. Future, past, we did a good job. Don't look into it too much.
Don't look into it too much. So I want to introduce you to somebody you probably already know, the Veterans Minister, Johnny Mercer. So let's hear what he had to say, and then what the public actually think of him.
And Johnny, certainly during the 2019 general election, I was knocking on a lot of doors then, and a lot of Labour voters were basically saying, stay away from my property if you represent Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn was very, very disliked by the veterans community, very mistrusted, of course, on Trident, on the state of the nation, on everything. Do you think it's fair, though, to apply the same criticisms towards Sir Keir Starmer?
Look, I think what the public like in their politicians is consistency, principles, values, and integrity.
So this is from a guy who's part of a party that had Boris Johnson. No, let's go back. David Cameron, very different to Theresa May, who was very different to Boris Johnson, who's very different to Liz Truss, who's very different to Rishi Sunak. Consistency, right. And how many ministers have been through government departments over the last 14 years? Probably like 500 ministers. So, and each minister has their own take on everything. So when you're complaining, you're pointing about consistency. Okay.
And if you're going to try and make Jeremy Corbyn Prime Minister twice, an individual who has wanted to turn the army into a peace corps, wanted to leave NATO, get rid of the nuclear deterrent.
Okay, I don't think that any of this is true. He didn't want to turn the army into a peace corps. He didn't want to he didn't want to leave NATO. That wasn't part of the manifesto. I don't remember him actually ever saying anything like that. So you're just lying.
And then only 5 years later, come back and pretend you're the party of defence. What I would gently suggest is that the British public are not that stupid, and that we need to give them a bit more respect. And
talking about giving the public respect. Your party has undercut funding for the MOD over a number of years now. The army is at half the size, and now Rishi Sunak and Grant Shapps, the defence secretary, can you believe, is turning around and saying, yeah, what we're going to do is spend 2.5% of GDP.
Recognise that, Labour will, of course, say anything. I mean, they'll accept anybody, they'll say anything, they'll do anything simply to have a clutch at.
The projection here: get Brexit done, stop the boats. What's the latest slogan to try and convince people that you're in charge, that you're actually going to do anything? And doesn't he look like, I don't know, is it the camera angle? Alice, thank you so much for that super chat. Reset Rishi has zero integrity or direction. Yes, he has nothing going for him. It's just running on fumes, I think, at this stage. Thanks so much, Alice. It's just running on fumes. They don't actually have a plan. They keep saying we have a plan. They never actually explain what the plan is. How is the plan bringing down inflation? Well, we don't. It's a plan. Labour don't have a plan. That's all they have. The plan, sticking to the plan. But just back to Johnny here. He looks very sad. He looks like he's he's just come out of a divorce or something.
Power. And that's why you're seeing them talk about defence now. It's not credible to try and make Jeremy Corbyn Prime Minister twice and then less than 5 years later come back.
Liz Truss was... Did you campaign for Liz Truss? Liz Truss crashed the economy. She actually did that. We don't know what Jeremy Corbyn would have done. You can't be sure what he would have done because he was never elected. He never became Prime Minister. But I've said before, I'm not Jeremy Corbyn's biggest fan, okay, when it comes to, for example, the issue of Brexit. But can you imagine Jeremy Corbyn during the pandemic? Would he have said, just take it on the chin? Would he have ignored it? Would he have refused to wear a mask? Would he have just said, let's get out of lockdowns as soon as possible? Would he have accused the other side of, being pro-lockdown and then 2 weeks later putting the country into lockdown? Jeremy Corbyn would have done an infinitely better job than Boris Johnson did. When it came to Brexit, I disagreed with him. I think the problem with the Labour Party in 2019 was the message was all over the place. They had very good policies, but they weren't very good at selling them. I think that was the big problem they had. The policies were good, but the salesman was not good. He wasn't a good salesman. He wasn't able to engage with people. But as a prime minister, he would have done an infinitely better job than Boris Johnson. But then this is Johnny Mercer trying to, spin things, of course. Brad, thank you so much for that super chat. Shaps will increase the size of the army by creating thousands of pseudonyms. For existing soldiers. Yeah, he has a bit of expertise in that field, I think. Oh my goodness. I think Michael Green, Shockhearth and Sebastian Fox all the ministerial jobs in one point. At some point, yes.
Back and say, forget about that. We've redesigned ourselves. Now we believe in what's our fundamental principles. These are not policy decisions on a whim. These are fundamental principles around national security.
What have you done for veterans? Well, let's hear a veteran tell us about what the Tories have done for him.
We've got nothing. I'm ex-Navy. I did 2 tours of Iran and Iraq. I'm ex-Navy, and I'm sleeping on the streets in a shelter down on the seafront. There's got to be some help there for ex-servicemen and veterans.
There isn't.
And someone, at some point, has got to stand up. We defended our country, and at some point, someone's got to help us. And as my friends will say, they've seen me. I'm shattered to bits from Iran. I'm shattered to bits. And I sleep on the seafront.
You've got a Conservative Veterans Minister. Has he not done anything to alleviate the situation for you?
No, there's got to be a change. There's got to be a change. I defended our country. So where's our help? Why am I sleeping rough? Shouldn't be like that. And hopefully we get a government into power that will make a change, make a difference, hopefully. And I hope and pray on that.
It's depressing because, as he said, I presume when he said Iran, he meant Afghanistan. But it's depressing because these are people who, as he said, fought for Britain, defended the nation. But, I don't know how many veterans there are. How many homeless veterans? I don't think there's that. I don't think we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. We're talking about a few thousand people. And Johnny Mercer as minister couldn't buy a few houses as minister. Couldn't say, okay, let's use this money to buy properties, to build council houses or whatever for these veterans. If he did that, then he would have actually been successful. But he didn't. Why not? Why didn't he do that? Even provide them with properties, rent properties for them to show, look, we actually care about you now that you're a veteran. We're going to provide you with free housing as a veteran. He could have done that, but he didn't. Why not? Because he doesn't give a shit. Like all of the other Tories in the House of Commons, they frankly don't give a shit. Why should they give a shit? They get, 86,000 pounds a year. They get all their expenses paid for them. They get whatever they want. They get free meals or subsidised meals in the canteen in Parliament. drinks at the bar. They get, to have a second, a third, fourth, fifth, sixth job. They write articles for the Express or the Daily Mail or the Telegraph. Get some money on the side for that. So why should they care about these people? They can convince. All they need to do is convince a significant number of them that they're actually doing something for them, or that, well, you better vote for me because the other party will make your situation worse. Yes, but I'm sleeping on the street. I'm sleeping in front of the sea outside at night. But don't vote for the other party because they'll make the situation even worse. Even I presume if this guy is homeless, he can't even vote. It's, I don't know. It's sad because we're talking about maybe, 10,000 people who are homeless veterans. It's probably even less than that. Johnny Mercer couldn't put some money aside, say, okay, our budget, what we're going to do is rent accommodation for these people who have served. Yeah, Johnny Mercer was in the army. Surely there are people coming up to him and saying, Johnny, can you do something for us? Yeah, I'll do something for you. Just don't vote for Labour because they'll make your situation worse. How can it get any worse? It can get worse. I can think of some worse ways you can be. They need to be removed. They need to be removed from power. And I think Johnny Mercer is going to lose his seat if he hasn't. Or maybe he's already going to stand down. I don't remember. Anyway, let's move on to Michael Green because Grant Shapps, sticking with military stuff. UK to get at least 25 new warships due to defence spending rise, says Shapps. Defence Secretary Grant Shapps told Sky News that there are 28 new ships and submarines in the design and construction stage at the moment for the UK's armed forces. He said 22 ships are already in the system, in the pipeline. Do you believe him? But there is less clarity over 6 new warships he announced for the Royal Marines today. There's a few things about this. When it comes to steel, is this steel being imported? Why isn't steel protected as a strategic resource of the state? Wouldn't that make sense? But the Tories don't care about these things, about selling stuff off. Just like the aircraft carrier that doesn't float. And then there was a ship that had a problem with reversing and it got damaged. Probably because they're not doing the maintenance. Why aren't they doing the maintenance? Because they don't have the money. Why don't they have the money? Because the Tories don't. The Tories talk big about, we're going to spend huge amounts of money on the military, and then they don't do it. Because, see, the thing is, I hate being cynical. I don't want to be cynical. But it comes down to this. I keep getting this idea reinforced in my mind that when it comes to money, they spend the bare minimum so that a government department doesn't completely collapse. Because if it completely collapses, then they're in serious trouble. So if they're supposed to spend 100, they'll spend 99. Borderline, okay? But they won't spend more because, well, what's the point? Just keep it on a knife edge. And then the real money, where does that go? Well, it goes to the private sector because our friends are in the private sector. Then if I can funnel more money into the private sector, then when I lose my seat or when I resign, then I can be given a cushy job, in the private sector as a consultant or as a lobbyist or as, just somebody sitting on the board as a thank you for all the hard work I've done in funneling money into the private sector. I think this is what they actually do. They don't actually run the country. They keep it ticking over so it doesn't completely collapse, because if it completely collapses, then they're in serious trouble. But just give it the bare minimum and then funnel the rest of the money, fight like rats in a sack over how much money they can get from the Treasury, and then funnel that into the private sector so that they prepare themselves, they give themselves a bit of a cushion when they leave office. Now, maybe I'm being overly cynical here, but this is the impression I get. And Grant Shapps, he must be funneling a lot of money because, there are a lot of departments that he's worked in. He was Home Secretary at one stage. Anyway, the Defence Secretary said that the government is committed to 3 of the new vessels, versatile ships, for the Marines, and then possibly another 3 as well. He later said the final stages are in the design phase. He also announced 2 of the ships being built, Type 26 and 31 frigates, will be equipped with land attack missiles so that they can be capable of attacking targets on shore. And one of them is HMS Cardiff, which is due. So it started in 2017 and it'll be finished in 2028, which is a long time. I didn't know ships took that long to build. But it's a big ship. But this was started long before Grant Shapps became a minister. I don't even know if he was a minister in 2017. Was he Grant Shapps? Maybe he was, but he wasn't the Defence Secretary. That was I don't know who, because they keep changing all the time. So somebody made this commitment in 2017. Like, remember 2017, that's when Theresa May was. That's how long ago it is. 2017, when Theresa May was in charge. So one of her ministers decided, what we're going to do is give £3 billion for this HMS Cardiff. But now Grant Shapps is trying to recycle it as, see, we're actually building these things. It's insane and it's ridiculous. Anyway, guys, let's move on to another topic here. I said this is a story that's a bit of a storm in a teacup, but it's actually evolved into a bit more than that. The issue itself is a storm in a teacup, but the consequences of the Tories not actually understanding how Northern Ireland has to be treated differently to the rest of the UK if Britain wants to diverge on things like EU standards, human rights, things like that. So, law allowing asylum seekers to be sent to Rwanda disapplied by court in Northern Ireland, but UK government to appeal. Yeah, they'll appeal and they'll fail. The High Court in Belfast on Monday morning ordered the disapplication of sections of the Act as they undermine human rights protections guaranteed in a region under post-Brexit arrangements. The Illegal Migration Act provides new powers for the government to detain and remove asylum seekers it deems to have arrived illegally in the UK. Central to the new laws is the scheme to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. Mr. Justice Humphreys said aspects of the Illegal Migration Act were incompatible with the European Convention on Human Rights, which the UK remains signed up to. Now, of course, Brexiteers and crazies within the Conservative Party want to leave. You don't leave, but they want to leave the European Convention on Human Rights because, well, we need to leave to get these people out of the country, although it's not guaranteed that they would be sent to Rwanda, that they could be sent to Rwanda. And of course, Rwanda said, we can take maybe 300-400 people per year. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said the government would appeal against the ruling and the judgment changes nothing about our operational plans to send illegal migrants to Rwanda this July or the lawfulness of the Safety of Rwanda Act. So what's the problem here? Following Brexit, the UK and the EU agreed the Windsor Framework, which stipulates that there can be no diminution of the rights provisions contained within the Good Friday Agreement, Good Friday Peace Agreement of 1998, even if they differ from the rest of the UK. The judge found several elements of the Illegal Migration Act caused a significant reduction of the rights enjoyed by asylum seekers in Northern Ireland under the terms of the Good Friday Agreement. So the problem here, of course, is that, look, what's going to happen, I said before in another video, what's going to happen is the Irish Sea border will be reinforced. And the DUP and the TUV and extremist unionists in Northern Ireland are going to throw a temper tantrum. But what's the alternative? The alternative is for the British government to modify the Illegal Migration Act or the Rwanda bill. They're not going to do that. And if they try to do it, it's going to take time. And of course, it's going to be challenged in the House of Lords again. So it makes more sense for Rishi Sunak to say, okay, well, what we'll do is we'll just reinforce the border in the Irish Sea. And to hell with the DUP and unionists in Northern Ireland. To hell with Northern Ireland. Because as I keep saying, when it comes to the union or Brexit, Brexiteers chose Brexit on every occasion. They pretended to care about the union, but they don't. They're English nationalists. Let's just call a spade because that's what they are. English nationalists. They don't care about the union. It's about getting England out of Europe. And, you know, if you can listen to so many comments throughout the Brexit saga. Even recently, John Hayes, I think his name is, he was asked about this and he said, well, you know, the priority when he was like, you know, Northern Ireland or Rwanda, what's the priority here? And he said the priority is Rwanda. So, you know, if a member of the DUP is listening to that, then they have to realize, okay, then the British government is not going to water down their legislation. They're not going to change the legislation. So what's the opposite? What's the consequence of that? The consequence is reinforcing the Irish Sea border, because they can't enforce the border on the island of Ireland, because that would be in breach of the Good Friday Agreement, and they're not going to do that because then there'd be in serious consequences. And of course, there's no real benefit. You have to also think about it from the Tory government's point of view. What's the benefit in getting into trouble with the EU and the United States? Because the United States are not happy. They've mentioned on a number of occasions, you tinker with the Good Friday Agreement, you're going to face consequences. So what's the advantage there in trying to force a border on the island of Ireland? It makes more sense. It's much simpler just to reinforce the border in the Irish Sea. It already exists. So you just carry out more checks on asylum seekers, saying, no, asylum seekers can't come back to Great Britain. They have to stay in Northern Ireland. You have that right, I believe. You just say, no, you're going to Northern Ireland, you have to stay there. And they're more likely to stay in Northern Ireland than go to the Republic of Ireland, because they know there are checks being carried out at the moment. So what you could end up seeing is people being forced back into Northern Ireland, and unionists in Northern Ireland are going to complain. But we sort of told them that Brexit was a bad idea. None of this would be happening if the UK had remained part of the European Union. But this is, once again, it seems people just don't get it. It's either, in the case of the DUP, they're either stupid or they just really don't care. Okay, so unfortunately, when it comes to immigration, you hear calls like this.
I think the public have to ask themselves some very serious questions now, because there is no point spending money on defence unless you have people out there willing to enforce it. Now, this is a really it's a very tough question, but I'm going to mirror what other people have said a lot. If I was travelling in a boat and landing illegally in many other countries, I can imagine.
Okay, first of all, it's not illegal. Like, travelling and landing in a country illegally, that's different from claiming asylum.
In many other countries, I can imagine a gunship coming overhead and saying, "What the hell are you doing? Turn around, a land tenor."
You actually think that there are gunships in, like, the first course of action is to send a gunship against somebody who's arriving? A gunship? What movies has this guy been watching?
You know, I would imagine that there are probably people out there in the Navy and in Border Force who are held back, who are perfectly willing to try and stop innocent people drowning in the channel, and go out there and say, "You turn around now to the driver, or we'll put a bullet in your arm, or we'll put a bullet in your leg."
Even Nick Ferrari is shocked. Even Nick Ferrari. Will put a bullet in your leg or put a bullet in your arm? You actually think that, okay, maybe there are people in the Royal Navy and Border Force who would be willing to do that. Well, those types of people should be removed from that service. Because you're talking about shooting people who haven't committed a crime. Now, I know for some people within the Conservative Party and some people on the right, this just gives them a massive amount of pleasure. Let's shoot innocent people. Let's shoot people who haven't committed a crime. What is their crime? Well, they crossed the channel illegally. Why are they doing that? Well, they want to claim asylum in Britain. Isn't that illegal? No, it's not illegal. As I keep saying, if they've broken a law, then why aren't they in prison? Why haven't they been arrested? You know, you keep hearing this, and it really pisses me off. Why has no one ever asked, a journalist never asked the question of a politician, wait a minute, you said illegal migration. These people have entered the country illegally. Why haven't they been arrested? They couldn't answer that question because they know it's bullshit. You keep saying these people have entered the country illegally. Why haven't they been arrested? Is he Braverman or Farage's son? Maybe it's a mix. Maybe Braverman and Farage have come together. I know that was a wrong term to use. Have hitched up and oh God, and produced something like this. Yes, it's.
And that people have to. It comes down to that.
So, just to clarify, then, the promises you're hearing from Mr. Sunak ring pretty hollow to you because of the fact that they're not controlling our borders. Is that broadly where we're going with this, Robert?
Well,
he doesn't push back and say, "Wait a minute, you want to shoot people? You want Border Force to shoot people? You want the Royal Navy to shoot people? Just in the arm? That's okay." And what if they miss and they kill the person? Or what if they shoot them in the arm and they hit an artery? Or what's the point? Like, why are we debating whether people should be shot in the first place? They should not be shot. This is insane. But unfortunately, this is the rhetoric. Well, you know, to the driver. In some cases, there isn't a driver on these dinghies. What happens is people are forced on and they're said, here, we'll start the engine, keep going in that direction. Keep heading north until you reach land, or until you reach somebody who's going to take you to land. There isn't a driver. So who do you shoot? I think if you were to push Robert here, he'd probably say, well, we should just shoot the boat. And if they fall in the sea, a bit like Ben Habib, well, just let them drown. He's been watching Tour of Duty from 1980s. This laser guided bombs, they're really great for righting wrongs. Life is cheap, yes. Bullets are expensive, though. Yeah, it's like these people claim we care about people drowning in the sea, but we don't want them to cross the channel, but we don't want to give them a safe route. So I don't believe for a second when people say, I care about people drowning in the sea, but when you follow that statement with but, it means that you don't care. If you cared about them, you would be saying we need to have safe routes. We need to provide people with a safe access to like there was when it came to Ukraine. Ukrainians weren't crossing the channel. Why was that not? Why were they not doing that? And unfortunately, government ministers, Tory MPs have never been asked that question. Wait a minute, why were Ukrainians not crossing the channel in dinghies? Well, because there was a safe route. They could just fly here. Why were you not telling them to stay in Poland? Poland is a safe country. Why were you not saying you must stay in Poland? Because Poland has taken a lot of them, and it could destabilize Poland if there were too many people there, or if they were forced for everyone from Ukraine to stay in Poland. That could destabilize the country, create problems in the country. Okay. But you want people have to stay in France because France is a safe country. It's unfortunate. See, the biggest problem with this entire discussion is the media itself, not the politicians, because the politicians will spew whatever tripe, whatever rubbish they can, if they believe they can get away with it. And they can get away with it if journalists don't ask the right questions. And one of the best questions, I would love to meet, Sophie Ridge or Beth Rigby or Simon Coates or someone like this from Sky News or from the BBC or whatever. And I'd love to ask them this question. Why don't you ask this simple question? If people are crossing the channel illegally, why are they not being arrested? Please ask this question of an MP or a government minister. Please do that. Because they can't answer that question. They'd have to say, well, it's not illegal. Then stop using that term. So the economy,
for you.
as mentioned before, the economy is booming, but there's another problem.
Okay, a quick update for you on unemployment figures. And the UK's average regular earnings growth, well, it remained unchanged at 6%, we're hearing here at Sky News, in the 3 months to March, and lifted to 2.4% after taking that consumer price index inflation into account. We'll be getting more reaction from that through the morning, I'm sure. So those are the latest figures there.
So it says here, the Office of National Statistics says unemployment has risen to 4.3%. The problem here is that if there was underemployment at the same time as unemployment is rising, it means that businesses that had originally tried to hold out to get staff they need to grow their businesses have given up. And in some cases, they've taken a step back and they said, look, we're actually going to let people go because we can't continue to operate within this environment. So if you think of businesses that are exporting, well, because of Brexit, it's more difficult. So they're not expanding. They're trying to consolidate whatever they have within Britain. But of course, that market is becoming more and more difficult because of the cost of living crisis. People have less money to spend. The economy is not doing very well. If the UK economy was doing really well, then you could say, okay, what we'll try and do is mitigate the problems of Brexit by selling internally. But if the economy is not doing well, then it's more difficult on both fronts. So then, of course, businesses are laying people off. So they can't get the staff they need because of the ending of freedom of movement, because of these ridiculous visa programs. So they're not hiring more people. And because they're not hiring more people, the economy is not growing to the extent it should be. So, of course, it's contracting. Now, there was a little bit of growth, but that's, if it goes down a lot, it will eventually come up a little bit and then back down again. So I wouldn't be surprised if the economy dips again, because there's nothing on the table for it to grow, in a sustainable way. Yes, the economy's stupid. Yes, well said. Guys, we're almost at the end of the live stream. I just want to cover one or two more stories before we finish. This one here.
What's your take on this data this morning?
Our old friend, the job centres.
Well, for some time now, employment has not recovered post-pandemic. That's a big problem. Unemployment, as Ian was just saying, ticking upwards is also of a concern. And that's because we know that we've had this cost of living crisis in the UK. So on the one hand, we've had the problems with prices. On the other hand, this is about people not being able to earn what they should be earning. And we know in lots of parts of the country, these are national averages, in lots of parts of the country, it's even worse. People are not able to get a good job that's bringing the money in so that they can look after their family. And so I think it's very worrying, and we need a totally different approach, in my opinion.
The wage growth this morning was positive, though, I guess, 6% inflation, but below that at the moment. On unemployment, as Ian pointed out, ticking up from 4.2% to 4.3%. That's still historically low.
That's right, but you have to look at it in the context of what our economy is doing, and we're in a recovery phase, or at least we should be. Unemployment should be low, and whilst that, historically speaking, is at a low level, that employment plateauing says that something's not right. What's going on there? Well, people haven't got enough good choices about the kind of jobs that they can do. That's why Labour's plan is two things, really. Use our Green Prosperity Plan to create more good new jobs, and then reform job centres to help people get those jobs. I don't know about everyone else, but I don't know anybody who wants to go in a job centre at the moment. They've got this tick box culture. They don't offer real help. And that's got to change, because we want to see people doing the kinds of jobs that are going to help build us a better future, not just any job they can get.
Okay, and I hope that's the case, because the DWP, as Muslim Revert has said, the Department for Work and Poverty, has brought in a lot of these private contractors to do the work of the DWP, where it's just about ticking boxes, as was pointed out here by the Shadow Minister. It's not about actually creating jobs. It's not about finding jobs for people that who want to do work. So many people can't work, okay? But what the Tories have been doing is trying to force people who can't work into jobs just for the sake of doing a job. Just to bring down the numbers. They're not interested in actually creating long-term growth. They're not interested in creating long-term employment for people. It's like just force more people into the gig economy, for example, or into doing 0-hour contracts, just to get them off the books so that we can say, look, we brought down unemployment. And I keep saying it's not about creating something long-term. It's just about grabbing a headline. Like with Brexit when it came to the trade deals. Let's get a trade deal so we can say, we have done trade deals. See, Brexit is a success. Things are falling apart, and they're falling apart in a very bad way because of underinvestment and just a lack of concern. Health Secretary unable to guarantee no further maternity care scandals following birth trauma report. Victoria Atkins was speaking following the publication of a report by MPs where there was shockingly poor quality in maternity services, resulting in care that lacked compassion and a system where poor care is all too frequent and tolerated as normal. Speaking to Sky News following the report's publication, Ms Atkins thanked the women who had been involved in the inquiry and said that the stories were really important. But are you going to do anything about it? No. I say that not just as the Secretary of State for Health, but I say this as a mum. The Health Secretary who was appointed in her role last November, said her own experience of having a baby on the NHS included moments of joy, but also some moments that were very dark and frightening. See, this is what really pisses me off about them as well. I get pissed off about a lot of things. But it reminds me of Boris Johnson. When Boris Johnson went into hospital during the pandemic, you would have imagined he had spent time in hospitals, he had time to think, time to look around, and you would imagine a reasonable person would look around and go, my goodness, I have the power to provide these people with what they need. With the stroke of a pen, I could make sure that they have enough resources, they have enough PPE, they have enough this, they have enough that. I could do it. It wouldn't cost me anything. Literally cost me nothing. It's a government decision. And what did he do? He didn't give a shit. And this is the same with government ministers like Victoria Atkins. You just say, yeah, I've been through difficult times as a mum when I went into the NHS and I had a child. But Boris is not normal, Max. Yes, I said. But you would think somebody who went through that would be like, my goodness, now I'm in charge. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to do my best. But they don't. It's always, well, it's not my fault. It's somebody else's fault. It's the previous government's fault. It's this person's fault. It's that person's fault. And they never say, well, I'm actually going to take responsibility for it. Because if you're not able to fix it, then the honourable thing would be to resign. Like, you can't keep saying, well, it's somebody else's fault. It's somebody else's fault. Why haven't you reached your targets? Somebody else's fault. Why haven't you invested enough? It's not my fault. Somebody else's fault. Then if you keep coming up with excuses like it's somebody else's fault, then why don't you resign and say, look, I can't fix this. It's not fixable because of other people. Now, so in some cases, it may be somebody else's fault, like the Treasury are not providing you with the funding you need. But then you come out and say, it's the Treasury's fault. I'm resigning over that. I need to fix the NHS. This is so important. It's probably the most important department in government. And I'm not able to do it because the Treasury won't allow me, the government won't allow me, I'm going to resign. But they don't do that. Isn't it convenient? They say, it's not my fault, it's somebody else's fault. Are you going to resign? Nah, because I get a good salary. And, that career ladder, it won't climb itself. I want to be leader of the Conservative Party or Prime Minister or something sometime soon. So if I quit now, then what happens to my career? I could try and do stuff for the NHS, but then that's not really going to benefit me. If I blame other people and I pretend that I'm doing something, then perhaps later on I could become Prime Minister. See? That's how you benefit. Oh my God. So, guys, I'm going to have to speed things up a little bit. So we're almost at the end of the stream. I just want to cover one final story here. I hope you were able to see my interview with Alexander today in regards to Georgia, the situation in Georgia. We just
Let's talk to Georgi Margveshvili, who was the president of Georgia from 2013 to 18. What are your thoughts? It's an extraordinary scene here, isn't it, in the capital? What do you think as you're standing between thousands of police, it seems, and thousands of your own country people here, determined to protest against this law that has now passed?
Well, I think we are standing firm on who we are and who we were. We are free people. We are free people that claimed independence 30 years ago, and we're fighting for this independence. And now there is an attempt to take us away from our natural trajectory where we are and where we have been. So we stand here firm, we stay here calm, and we will overcome, for sure.
As you say, in 2003, the Rose Revolution here was one of the first coloured revolutions, as it was called, against Soviet domination, and you managed to throw off that Soviet yoke. And many of the people, I think, or everyone here protesting, believes that there's a danger Georgia is going to get dragged back into that Russian sphere of influence. What can you do to stop it, though? Because you have overwhelming force arrayed behind you, and the parliament seems to be controlled by the Georgian Dream Party, determined to push this law through parliament.
Well, I've been through dozens of changes in this government and in this state, and it's not up to policemen, which are actually not bad lads. I mean, some of them are good guys, but this is their job right now. But we will not let them come to violence. We will push this process peacefully and very firmly to changing of the government, just to break the spirit of this government, as we have done this with communists and with others. There is this Georgian spirit of freedom and independence, likewise in other countries, and there we are united, standing for this, standing against Russians, who are at this point the evil of the universe. You know, they are just killing children and killing women and killing people in Ukraine. They are our occupiers. We will not let them prevail.
Georgian Dream, who are the governing coalition here, they insist that actually this law is to protect Georgia against outside influence, whether it's Russian or American or European.
That's a joke. That's a joke. It's just a replica of what Russians have done and how Putin tried to control his own society. We've seen this in Russia. And we will not fall under that mistake. No, we are standing here firm, calm, peaceful, and for freedom, and we will not let them prevail. We will overcome.
What kind of battle do you think you've got ahead of you now?
We've got a long battle, peaceful, which will take lots of our energy, but this will be a peaceful battle. And I see the analogy with the way the Soviet Union was collapsing 30 years ago. The Communist Party was strong with much more tougher mechanism, but firmly, steadily standing on the moral side, destroys all the powers that are with the government.
So there will be elections this year, it seems, and unless they're cancelled, but it seems that there will be elections this year, and according to Alexander, hopefully there will be a change of government, and people's freedoms will be restored. So I want to say thank you so much to everyone who came on tonight. Thank you so much for your support, your super chats. Thank you for smashing the like button. I'll see you on Friday, same bad time, same bad channel. But before we go, of course, we have our one for the road. Hope you enjoy this. And thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job as always.
Good. At some point in the second half of this year,
Let me restart, sorry.
Boo! Did I scare you? Good. At some point in the second half of this year, we are all going to go to the polls and make a choice. I'm not going to tell you exactly when, because I'm a big tease. And I also know it's the last important decision I'll ever make. It won't just be a choice between Labour or Conservative, or even Sunak or Starmer. It will be a choice between the future and the past. Good or evil. Life or death. Are you scared yet? I remain confident that my party can prevail, not because of our record alone, or indeed at all, but because we are the only party who will be talking about the future. I'm talking rocket ships and computers and robots and flying cars. Bah! Just keeping you on your toes. The world's a crazy place at the moment, isn't it? We've got war, immigration, nuclear weapons. I mean, what if Keir Starmer, who loved Jeremy Corbyn, forgot the nuclear codes? That will never happen to me. They are safely stored in my WhatsApps. The ones I didn't delete. Extremists are exploiting our liberal democratic freedom of speech and freedom to protest by saying that they disagree with us and protesting against us. I'm talking about the worst people in the world. Terrorists, gender activists, cancel culturers, and worst of all, Scottish nationalists. These people are trying to make it morally unacceptable to believe anything different, whereas we believe in accepting the morally unacceptable. This country has been pounded by a series of once-in-a-generation disasters. Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, COVID, Ukraine... Oh God, behind you! Got you. The future's terrifying. AI could destroy 40% of all jobs. I mean, not this job, obviously. No one wants to vote for AI. I mean, no one wants to vote for me either. But plot twist, the future's not just terrible, it's also amazing. AI's great. Imagine in the future a school where every pupil had their own AI tutor personalised to them. And all the teachers were sort of sitting around waiting for their jobs to go away. But that's fine because they don't vote for us anyway. Now, I'm not saying the past doesn't matter, although I sort of did just say that a minute ago. Are you still understanding this? Because I basically wrote 4 different speeches and sort of squashed them together. You can't tell, can you?
So guys, have a great week. I'll see you on Friday.
Did I scare you?
Let me stop that. See you on Friday, same bad time, same bad channel. And as always, stay safe, take care, and good night.